Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. The show where each week a panel of respected marketing strategists, all trained and certified by the legendary Dan Kennedy, share their wisdom, experience, strategies, and insights on how to use Dan Kennedy's philosophy on business and marketing in any type of business, and that you can apply to your business immediately. Here's your host, Craig Valine.
Hello there. Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. I'm Craig Valine, your host. And as usual, my regular expert panel of guests are here, independent business advisors from Dan Kennedy and Bill Glaser. And today we're going to cover the topic of direct response marketing principles. And the reason for that is in essence, Dan Kennedy style marketing. So to kick it off, Mike, you are a serious student of direct response marketing. Can you kind of explain for the listeners what that really is?
Yeah, Craig. And when I saw the topic for today's episode, I was pretty excited because this really is, and I'm sure everybody on this panel would agree, once you understand and start leveraging direct response marketing, it can really be a game changer. So I would say at a very high level, direct response marketing is a type of marketing where the focus is on a very targeted individual or group, right? So it's not the world. So it's a targeted group that you're going after, whether it's direct mail, social media, whatever it might be. And then the other big takeaway is the fact that you are trying to and presenting a reason to respond. Hence the word response in direct response marketing. So a lot of marketing, as we can all attest, sort of brand marketing, awareness marketing. The Super Bowl was recently, and the ads that ran in the Super Bowl, I'd say 95% of them are just traditional. Hey, we exist. This is what we do. If it's a decent one, and that's about it. Having an ad that actually offers a QR code on the commercial, for example, or hey, go get a free book, or go here, like in the commercial, would convey differentiate it as a direct response type of commercial. So very targeted is typical of direct response marketing, and a reason to respond now, and then giving ways to respond. So I would say at a high level, that's what direct response marketing is.
Thank you. Dan, what's the difference between direct response marketing and, let's say, traditional marketing, agency style marketing?
So, a couple of big things I would say is an integral part. And I just want to say, I think we all in this group kind of made our bones with direct response marketing. And so the big key thing is that call to action. Okay. And when you look at brand marketing, that's kind of just there. We, in direct response marketing, we emphasize that call to action. And one of the big things is we want to give them more than one way to respond. And so in a lot of traditional marketing, you'll see a phone numbers up there. And I've seen some traditional marketing where there was no call to action. There was no go to our website, call us. There was nothing. It's just there. Okay, and so that's something that we make sure we include, but we like to have more than one way to reach us. So whether it's by email, whether it's call, whether it's go to our website, whatever it may be, the more ways you can have there to do that. And it's all geared, like Mike said, to get them to respond. And it's interesting, we're talking about this. I was just a couple hours ago reading one of Dan's gold letters from a month or two ago, and he said something in there that I think is key to direct response marketing. He said, sell them what they want, not what you want to sell them. Okay, that's a key, because we can throw all kinds of mud up against the wall because that's what we want to sell. We're not going to get a whole lot of response to it. And so it's very important. I remember an ad rep coming to me at one point. She was a client of mine, okay, and she sold advertising, and told me that a client was upset with her because he had her run an ad to sell for $1 off on a pint of ice cream in January. Well, where we're at, it's 10, 20 degrees in January. No one's going to go, oh, wow, let me go run and get this pint of ice cream because it's a whole $1 off right now. And so the guy was upset with her, and it was the offer. Okay. That was him selling what he wanted to sell, not what they might want. Okay. And so there's a number of elements, and Mike gave you the high point of it, but there's a number of keys that are important for direct response marketing. And I think a real key is to do your homework and sell them what they want right now. Okay. Not necessarily what you want to sell them.
Excellent. Steve.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to this call. One of the tenets or one of the principles in Dan Kennedy style marketing is the critical marketing triangle. Right message going to the right market using the right media. Can you talk about that and why it's important?
Well, because anyone that's having a problem with their advertising and marketing, there's a failure in one or two or all three of those areas. It's as simple as that. So you've got to, as Mike said, you got to zoom in on a specific target. That's the first part of the triangle, the market. Then you've got to craft a message that resonates with them, which is what Dan was talking about, something that they want. And then you've got to find the right media to get that message in front of that ideal target market. And similar to what Dan was saying, the media it's not up to us, it's not up to you, it's not up to me. Like, I want to do Facebook ads, or I want to do email marketing, or I want to do TikTok. It's not up to us, it's up to them. How do they want to receive the information? That's the best way to figure out how to get that message in front of that market. And that's the triangle. And so again, if you're having trouble, all the viewers out there, with your marketing or advertising, it comes down to either there's a problem in either one or two or all three of those areas. Fix that and you're rolling.
Yeah, I always say if you miss any one of them, you'll risk poor results with your marketing. Mark, a lot of small business and brick and mortar companies especially get approached by ad reps. And when business owners aren't educated on how to market appropriately, they might choose media before everything else. Tell us why that happens and what to do about it.
Sure. And media is often the big choice, because that's like what comes at you all the time, offering, advertising on their platform, whether it's in print, display, television, radio, whatever it might be. So that is what people think is advertising. Hey, I tried an ad and it didn't work. By the way, Steve has a brilliant way of breaking it down, that whole triangle, with his wow strategy. So if you ever get a chance, go Google that and find Steve's presentation on that to really.
That's why I picked on him.
Perfect. And the late great father of advertising, David Ogilvy, had an expression. He said the guys that really got this right are the direct mail guys, the guys that are doing mail order. Mail order has this right because they're advertising something very specific and having a very specific offer for the purchase of that item. So what was the rest of your question, Craig? You were asking me about, the media. Media, yeah. And how sales reps are always selling the media. Of course they are, because let's face it, you have to be cautious, because the people selling those media, they work for that company. So that's kind of their baby. They're going to always rally for their thing. Everybody's trying to sell you their thing, and they're going to try to poo-poo everybody else's thing. And oftentimes the reps, they might sell, I always say they could sell you things that may not even be right for your particular product or service. You really have to know your audience, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that too. Know your audience to know whether that particular media is the right channel where to reach them.
Right. Excellent. Ben, the other part of the critical triangle is the market. So if someone's just starting out with a business, or they've had trouble selling their product or service, talk about how to select the market.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we've all been there with talking to customers, and we say, well, who is this product or service for? Who are you marketing to? And they're like, everybody. We're marketing to, 18 to 100 and men and women and all that. And so the key is really, and maybe that's the case, but certainly the message to a 21-year-old male and a 60-year-old female is going to be different because of different life experiences. And so looking at that market, the first step I think is really, if it's something that you've already been selling, like who look at your customer list. Who are the people who have bought this in the past? And if you can, find more like them. If it's something where you're trying to come up with a market from scratch for something that's new, like that's where you really need to look at, demographics, psychographics, and see who would benefit from this, who already knows that they need this solution. And I think a key is to get our own selves and concepts out of the way. One thing that Dan always said is, you are not your customer. So you have gone through, maybe at one point in your life, you were your customer because you needed something, but you've gone through, you've known all of this potential solutions, you've known what's worked. You need to step away from that and look at who are the people that don't know what you know, but ideally know that they need some help or could easily be convinced that they need that. So it's some of that is about competitive research. Who else is in the competitive space and who are they targeting? And using that at least as a starting point, because it's going to be an evolving group that you're marketing to. And so I think picking one identifiable market that has maybe some specific media that they take in and that will resonate with your message. Start with that group and use that as your baseline. How did the marketing go to them? And then you can branch out from those there into different markets as well.
Awesome.
Craig, can I add one thing to that?
Sure.
I just love Ben's message that you are not your customer, because when we started our restaurant, we thought we would have the 40 to 60-year-olds with some disposable cash coming in. And we ended up with the 21 to the 35-year-olds who were, if you will, looking for the hookup. And, they wanted a certain type of music and they wanted to show up, and we had little light up ice cubes that I bought primarily for kids that ended up over in the adult section. And like for Valentine's Day, we had a big, whatever light up ice cube was whether you were available or whether you were taken, or what happens in the comma stays in the comma. So it kind of evolved, if you will.
Like, not the raisins again, not the raisins, but okay.
No, light up ice cubes on this one, girl. Light up ice cube. You hang in there.
I didn't know it was
the
that kind of party. I'd have
up.
been there sooner.
Right?
Seriously. Mike was
Isn't
there.
that illegal?
Mike was there.
I wasn't there with the ice cubes, Becky.
Well, you were taken. So.
I was happily married, still am.
But I think Ben's message is just so appropriate that once they tell you, then you got to listen and you have to adjust. And if you don't, you're going to get left behind. And then, tracking everything and making sure all that's right with emotional direct response. Because if you don't have it right, you don't want to keep spending money on it. But I thought Ben's point was just so spot on. I had to pile on there, Ben.
Very good. We've talked about media and market. Let's talk about message. One of the brilliant strategies that I learned, I found Dan Kennedy's book in a Bucket bookstore. It was the first edition Ultimate Marketing Plan. And the thing that struck me was message to market match, but enter the conversation currently occurring in the prospect's mind. Richelle, talk about that principle and why it's critically important.
Man, well, because they're already thinking it, right? It lets the client know, the prospect know that you understand them. So the number one challenge with anybody in this world is that they feel misunderstood. Like, everybody feels misunderstood. So if you come to them with entering the conversation they're already having in their mind, now they go, oh my gosh, you get me. This is exactly it. But Dan Cricks made the best point so far on here, right? And well, in my opinion, not that I didn't like the light up,
mine too,
right? But he said, sell them what they want right now. right now, right? And that's entering what's going on in their mind. And the only way that you know how to sell them right now is to know how they're thinking and how they're processing and what it is that they want. So let's go back to Becky's example, right? She's got the greatest people in there now, the young folks who spend foolishly, right, on the money, but they've got this ice cube that's lit up, that's like, hey, I'm available. Yeah, this is Valentine's Day. They're giving the finger. Oops, excuse me. They're giving the finger to everybody, right? But they're saying, look, I'm available. Sell them what they want right now. And so the message would be, hey, you don't want to stay home for Valentine's Day? Come to Nakama's, hang out with us, and we will get you hooked up tonight, right? They're coming to show up to that.
This was before Tinder, so you are so right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break for a message from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
This episode of The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever is sponsored by Chuck Troutman, the $600 million man. If you're looking to grow your sales and, more importantly, your profits, now is the time to work with someone who has been responsible for $600 million in sales for himself and his clients. Get your free guide, Entertain Your Way to Profits, at www.chucktroutman.com. That's www.chucktroutman.com. Now, back to the show.
Okay, Joe, one of the concepts that I read that I learned very early is results rule, period. Branding should be a byproduct of the marketing, not the primary reason for marketing. Can you comment on that?
You're right. It's results. And as everybody's been mentioning here, if you're doing your homework ahead of time, doing your analysis of who's your best people for the marketing of your product or services, then you need now measure those results and make sure you've got it right. Because with the results, you then turn around and see what's working, not working, tweak it better so that you'll get better results going forward. And you have to track it. I mean, if you can find out if it's something where you've been pushing it online, then you want to find out, is it the Facebook or is it the LinkedIn or is it what is it? Where am I getting my most leads from? And if I'm getting my most leads from Facebook, then I need to concentrate more on that, and I need to make some adjustments to get more people in. So I think that's some of the things that you have to consider. You just can't throw it out there and figure it out later and say, well, it kind of worked here, kind of worked there, but I don't know how many I got from there and how many I got from here and so forth. You need to know. So, and you might find that your product or service, which has other competitors, they're not doing the analysis and you're right on top of it, and you can become the number one reseller or service provider for what you do. So.
Well, it's always that, I have a feeling, like, I know you guys have all worked with clients who come to you and say that. I feel like this is working. I feel like this isn't working, like, because they don't know how to analyze the data. They have never tracked it. 30 seconds or less. I have a client who ran a TV commercial, 6 months, got one client and said, it didn't work. And I'm like, well, yeah, it didn't work until I looked at it and I called the office 3 times. And the first time I got hung up on, the second time the gal dismissed me. And the third time they finally started to interact with me, right? After the third call, who's going to call your office 3 times? Who's going to do that? Right. Like, nobody's going to do that, right? So it may not even be your triangle, could be right. And you've got a ding dong answering the damn phone.
Amen to that.
And something else I wanted to say based off of what Joe said. Joe made a good point about you got to analyze the data. But something that we do in our world, and I think this is a place where a lot of people really kind of need to get help. And you want to sometimes dig in a little deeper. I once had a business that I was doing an ad campaign, and I was getting a ton of response. It was for a bricks and mortar business, just a ton of response. And I'm going, wow, I don't ever have to do anything else besides this. Then when I learned more about direct response marketing and tracking, fortunately I saved all those responses, and I soon realized that the average spend on those responses was about $1 more than the special that I was offering. They weren't buying anything. Okay. They were just coming for that deal, and that's all. And so I was hitting the wrong people. Okay. And so I stopped doing that, put a different ad in a different media, a more expensive ad, got less responses, but way more average sale, way more profits. Okay, so it's not just about getting a lot of responses. What are you attracting with those responses? And I've worked with clients where I've had them track, and we've stopped certain things and put more money into something else that was getting a much higher dollar value response to it. Okay, so in some cases, they got just the same amount of responses, but the dollar amount was 10 times more with one media versus another. And so I think this is something that the average business owner, if you're not into it, is really a place where you need to get some help.
Yeah. Excellent. Mark, Dan is very big on going against industry norms, not doing marketing the same way everybody does in your industry. Talk a little bit about that. Why is that true?
Well, first and foremost, I think you want to stand out. And if you just do the same thing as everybody else, you're just going to become invisible. So you're always looking for, ways to stand out. And you can do that in your copy. You could do that in your, it's mostly about your appeal, your hook. Like, what is it that everybody's not talking about? And one of the great ways to differentiate, aligned with like the USP or unique selling proposition, is take a look at what everybody else is saying, and remove all that from out of your message, and only stick with the things that they're not saying. So there's where one way to not do industry norms. Also, industry norms. Where's everybody else advertising? Going back to the media, where are they now? Where can you be that nobody else is that still makes sense? And, as long as we're crossing people's eyes, I wanted to bring up a message about media, a little bit more advanced, that I think is really a cool discovery, because you learn about this stuff academically, but when you actually do it, and it's like, playing a video game with humans, and you're like, oh, wow, the response is so cool. Check this out. This is you hear this like oh, by the way, like a throwaway comment, but this is so valuable, important. People buy in different ways. So your customers in each different media are totally different people. So one discovery, I'll give you for example, to illustrate this. I had a very successful ad running in a DJ magazine for years. And the people would respond through that. And my response rate was like 12, my conversion rate, I should say. They would, I offered them a free report. I'd send them the free report, and it was for $1,000 to $1,500 program. My sales conversion rate was 12%, which is incredibly high in that magazine. Now, you think you hit a home run. Oh, wow, I got a letter that works, right? I took the mailing list from the same magazine, okay? Mailed it to that list. Same letter, offer, everything. Conversion rate plummets, because people that respond to magazines, they are behaving a different way. The psychology of that is that they discovered you and sought you out. When you show up in somebody's mailbox is a completely different shift in psychology. So that's something to think about. It's a writer downer. Think about different tests with different types of media. If you sell to somebody, if you rent a list of people that bought, how did they buy? If it's a list of people that bought from a seminar, don't try to sell them through the mail. Get them in a room for a seminar. It's just kind of things like that. Just thought when I thought of it, I had to bring it up.
Yeah, excellent. Dan talks about sometimes when he's at the horse show or buying horses or something like that, he sees someone that's out of character to be there. So, for instance, he might see a lawyer with a table at the outside, or he might see a jeweler outside. And, there's a principle in the Renegade Millionaire system called follow that car. Are you familiar with that, Mike?
Follow that car? No.
Follow that car. Who's familiar with that concept? Follow that car in advertising. All right, I guess it's me. So there are other people who cater to your target market, who are not in direct competition with you, that may be advertising for your customer. And it may be in this sense where he was referring to being at a horse auction, and there being a bunch of, let's say, racers, owners, things like that. But out of the blue, he sees an attorney that has liability coverage. He sees a guy selling jewelry. And Dan always jokes about the jewelers there so that when the owner buys a new horse, he can buy his wife something nice to justify the horse. So the point being is that's a market that is out of character, out of the ordinary. And so follow that car means if there's someone who's being very successful advertising in the media, there's a reason, and so the financial advisor who advertises in Racehorse magazine, there's something to that. It's like, hey, that's my market. I'm going to follow that car, follow that advertiser, and market in the same thing. So let's see, we're running low on time, but I want to get to a couple things important. One of the presentations, or the primary presentation on Dan Presents when he used to be at the Peter Lowe event, was the Giorgio letters, right? The 3-letter campaign or 4-letter campaign. And basically the concept is one step, one hit marketing is stupid. So he talked about the 3-letter sequence, which he got from the collection agency market, right? So first I want to tackle why that principle is important. Multi-step marketing. So Mike, I'm going to go back to you.
Well, it should come as any shock that, especially in this day and age, it takes multiple impressions, multiple contacts, multiple times showing up for anybody to even really recognize that you even exist. So, in a perfect world, we'd run, send one email and we get a 100% response, and we'd run one ad and we get 100% response or a huge response. Obviously, that's not human nature. So. Yeah, magnetic marketing was built around that concept of multi-step marketing, which really is one of the most simplistic yet powerful takeaways from Dan Kennedy style marketing, which is, you don't do anything once, right? His message of what's the worst number in marketing is the number 1. Well, that relates to a lot of different things, but obviously just one hit or one time of doing anything. I was just talking to a client yesterday who wants to do a traditional 12-page sales letter in the mailbox. And we were talking yesterday about this, and I'm asking them, you ready to? We can't just do one mailing. So it's one of those things where that repeated, obviously online it's a lot easier, but that repeated messaging, we see it with pop-ups, we see it with the tracking ads and stuff like that. They exist because it takes the average person multiple times to really be aware of you and to take action.
Yeah, I think follow-up is probably the number one sin. Well, there's a couple sins, but it's one of the biggest sins about one-step marketing and then never following up with those people again. And in one of our future episodes, we're going to talk about tools to help us do that better. But I remember when I went to one of my first super conferences or info marketing summits, Chris Hearn had like 57 steps in his marketing to mortgage brokers. And I thought, holy crap, how many people just stop at 1 or 2, but he's doing 57. And he just kept on adding to it. So if they weren't responding, right? I think Richelle and I were just talking about that over lunch. Richelle, talk about multi-step marketing. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, even from the Halloween campaign, that I'm kind of famous for, right? In that there were 20 something steps, and it's not that you write all 20 at the beginning. It was that I wanted better results, and so I just kept adding steps, and I kept adding something to enter the customer's mind that we were already thinking about, right? The prospect. Well, they had already been hopefully reading my stuff or at least seeing it show up. so that when they got the next piece, it was almost like it became an episode. It became an episode of what was going on. And so I know that that Steve does that too with all of his marketing, huh?
Yeah, Steve, comment on that. You know, what if people say, I have to write 3 different pieces of copy to do this? I have to do 57 pieces of copy. I mean, how can people do it easily? And your thoughts on it?
Well, there's a simple solution to that, but I want to share that I routinely can double anyone's results from their ads simply using this concept. I mean, most business owners, like Mike said, in a perfect world, we wish that every time the phone rang, they said, hey, I want to do business with you. But in reality, I'll ask a client, say a heating and air guy, like, out of every 10 calls you get from your ad, how many, you know, because people call around, right? So how many end up doing business with you? And they'll generally say, oh, 3 out of 10. And then it's a killer. I get deer in the headlights when I then ask them, well, what happens to the other 7? They're like, what? I don't know. I don't think about it. I don't know. I just wait for the phone to ring with the, hey, I want to do business. And that's it. You know, they either buy or they don't, and they're gone. And so I guess they bought from someone else. Well, maybe they bought from someone else. They did a crappy job. They need you to fix it. Like, you want to be in front of them. So to double the response, you do what everyone's talking about here. You do the follow-up campaign. 3 steps, 27 steps, 42 steps, 800 steps, whatever it is. It's not just that one ad and hope the phone rings and they buy. When the other 7 over time, maybe they were just not ready to buy yet, and they were just looking for information or getting a feel of the prices, who knows what. But if you're the one that follows up with them, eventually you can get 3 more out of those 7 to buy from you, and that doubles the response you're at without spending a single extra penny. So the bottom line of doing this is to make sure you're in front of them constantly in all different methods and all different ways at all different times, so when they're ready to buy, they buy. And a simple solution to what you said, Craig, to not having to write a different message every time comes again from the collection agency. If anybody, I mean, I'll admit it, I've gotten those letters back in the day of entrepreneur. There's ups and downs, and often it's the letter comes, and then a week later, letter comes again with a big stamp on it. Second notice, same letter. They didn't write a different word. They put second notice on it. And Mike Afuzzi has a software that'll do that. It's copy doodles. Boom, it's like a second notice. And then guess what? Third notice, boom, final notice, boom. So yeah, you don't have to rewrite everything. You can use the old, and you put the second notice outside on the envelope or in the subject line of an email or a social media post, whatever media you're using, you can use these strategies. The point is, you got to use them.
Awesome. We have to wrap up, but I want to just ask if somebody wanted to learn more about direct response or Dan Kennedy style marketing from, let's say, the legend Dan Kennedy, what books would you recommend are the good for starters? Mike, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, obviously, the No BS Guide to Direct Marketing. I think that was one of my first books. One of those, one of the first No BS books. Ultimate Sales Letter.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other ones?
Direct
that's it. The Ultimate Marketing Plan. That's it. Joe's got it.
Direct response marketing for non-direct.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
That's an excellent book. That's an excellent book. Yeah, this conversation could go on for hours, and I would love to do it for hours, but we have to unfortunately stop. So I want to thank all of my guests for being here again for this episode, my expert friends, independent business advisors for Dan Kennedy and Bill Glaser. We do this podcast once a week, every Thursday, so we hope you'll join us for another great episode. There's a free gift pack for all our listeners and our fans at mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com, mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. We'll see you next Thursday. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever. New episodes are available every week on Thursdays. To receive a free gift pack from our expert panelists and get access to show notes from previous episodes, be sure to visit our website, www.mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell up in the right-hand corner to be notified of future episodes so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you clicking the like button and leaving a comment on what big aha you got during the show. That's it for today's episode. See you next week.